Cancer hasn't stopped, and neither have we.
Hi, I'm Carli O'Hara, the founder of Real Kids Wear Pink with the American Cancer Society, which is an initiative to raise money and awareness for breast cancer. And I started that in 2017 in honor of my grandmother, who is a breast cancer survivor. And I've raised about $120,000 for breast cancer and the American Cancer Society. And I'm a good friend of Will Brown's, and I was excited to hear about his Coaches versus Cancer National Championship Challenge. And so we wanted to get you on board in helping us, and you're a pretty cool person. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Bilas. I was born in Los Angeles, California, and I'm 56 years old. I am a broadcaster for ESPN, and I'm also a licensed attorney. So there's good and bad in everybody. And I'm just sort of hanging out with my family while all this is going on, trying to get to know everybody better and trying to stay safe. Hope you're doing the same.
Thank you. So you played at Duke, correct?
Long time ago, I did. Yeah, I played basketball there.
Interesting. I'm a Cuse fan, so.
I almost went to Syracuse. I actually, Jim Boeheim recruited me, and I hold the distinction of being the first player from California that Jim ever recruited. And he always likes to say that after he found out he could get a kid from California, he started recruiting the good players out there.
So speaking of recruiting, the whole mission of this is to recruit a team that will, during these times, continue to fight against cancer. So is it okay if I ask you a little bit of questions about recruiting and even some little fun questions too?
Sure, whatever you want.
All right. So I'm trying to conduct the most efficient interviews to get the best messaging across about the importance of our team, especially during this time. I know you are an expert in sports interviews, so do you have any tips for me?
Tips and interviews. I don't know if I have any really good ones, but the best thing in my career as far as interviewing has been ask what I'm most interested in. That if I'm interested in it, a viewer is probably interested in it. And then the best thing that I could do as an interviewer is to listen. That sometimes you can start thinking about your next question while your subject is giving an answer to the last question. Mm-hmm. And there are oftentimes areas that you want to delve into based upon the answer. So I think the best thing that you can do is, you certainly want to be prepared, but you need to listen.
Great advice. What is like the most memorable interview you've ever done?
Oh, wow. I interviewed Rick Pitino right after he was let go at Louisville. That was one of the more interesting and controversial interviews I've ever done. I think a lot of the interviews that I've done have been either in game or after a game. I used to do some sideline reporting where I would have to interview coaches at halftime. And oftentimes the most interesting interviews were with a coach that was really upset going into halftime. You wound up getting some interesting
answers. Nice. So how did Coach K recruit you to Duke? What stood out about, like, what made you want to go to Duke more? Is it how he recruited, or were there any other people that recruited you? Well, obviously Jim Boeheim, who you told us about. But.
Yeah, I was pretty lucky. I got recruited by a lot of different coaches, a lot of different schools. But for me, it really came down to who I wanted to play for most. That I had a sort of a bad experience in high school with my high school basketball coach. It wasn't pleasant. So college was really the only time that I was going to be able to choose who I played for in my basketball life. So that was a really important decision for me. So it was less about where I went to school and more about the coach I was going to play for. And so I came down to 4 really amazing coaches, and Coach K was in that group, but he was the least experienced and least well-known at the time. And Carli, I think the truth is I just liked him the best. And at the end of it, it came down to a feeling that I had about him, and I wanted to play for him. And it didn't mean I didn't want to play for the other guys. It was just you have to make one decision, and that was the one. I think I made a good decision. But it's funny, the four coaches I came down to, it was Coach K, Jim Boeheim, Lute Olson, who's in the first, those three guys are in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, and then Ted Owens, who was at Kansas at the time, who was another Hall of Fame caliber coach that multiple Final Fours. So all of them were amazing, but Coach K was the least known. It's kind of an interesting decision when you look back on it. That a lot of people wouldn't have predicted you'd go with the least successful, least known, but it turned out to be a pretty good decision for me.
Awesome. So you mentioned before that you're also an attorney. So you must be good at putting together cases for people. Can you help me draft a closing argument as to why someone should join our Coaches versus Cancer team?
I think being a part of a successful team is the best calling that anyone could have. And there's no greater cause and no greater team than the fight against cancer. That cancer affects all of us. There's not a person in our country or frankly worldwide that is not affected deeply by cancer. And I think with the amazing people that are on the front lines right now that are doing research, treatment, all the things that only they can do. The things that we can do in our roles is to provide them with the resources they need to continue making breakthroughs so that someday we don't need a team to beat cancer, that we can all get together and celebrate having beaten it. Like that's what we really want to do, is have that celebration where we're all celebrating the end to cancer and people being afflicted with it.
I agree. I know you have a lot of friends and followers on social media. Is there any possible way you can spread the word on social media about what we're doing?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. I don't know
Awesome.
if it'll do any good from my end, but I'll do whatever I can do to help.
Awesome. So I am going to throw in a little fun questions to lighten the mood a little bit. So obviously, I'm guessing you're doing interviews from home due to COVID-19. Is there any difference that you wish you could change? Is there anything about those interviews that are like a lot different than what you usually do?
Well, you don't have, because we're separated by distance and we're doing it over all these different platforms, it's hard to get that when you're having an interview face to face. It's hard to get that same feeling. And so you wish you could have that. This is obviously better than nothing, but it's not the same. And for some reason, I don't know exactly what it is, you connect with people on a deeper level when you're face to face and when you're there. I'm sure you've done the same thing. You have these meetings on Zoom, or even like a get together with friends and all that stuff. And it's not the same as if you're all sitting around a table having a bite to eat or something. And so that's what I'd like to change. I'd like to be able to get back together again. I'd like to have this past us, but I think we're all doing the best we can. And the main thing is try to stay connected with your friends and family as best you can, so that people don't feel like they're isolated in this. They call it social distancing, but you don't want it to be emotional distancing as well.
I agree. What have you been doing at home to help pass the time?
Well, I'm trying to get up and get dressed every morning without, staying in my pajamas or just wearing shorts and a t-shirt all the time, because it makes me feel like I'm going to be a little bit more productive. But I'm trying to stick to a routine. I'm working out more than I have in the past. I think I'll be on the Tour de France pretty soon with all these Peloton rides that I've had. And really, we're trying to take advantage of the family time that we have. That's been of all the negatives, and there have been so many and tragic negatives. The only positive has been the family connections that we've been able to deepen, and that's been at least a small silver lining in a really difficult situation. I
agree. So can we count on you to join our team?
I'm on it. Yeah. Oh, I thought I was on it already. You just did I finally made the team? That's good. Thank you.